All right, good afternoon, everyone. I'll try not to be boring. Okay. So, I'm not pitching anything either, so I'll spare from that. But I want to just quickly go over some of the technical aspects of an ICO, because we heard a lot of these terms being tossed around today. And I want to give a really quick overview of what they mean from a technical perspective. And also, let's say you qualify your token, you enlisted the service of Counselor Hommeyer there, and you can stay away from Counselor Silver. Okay, so you qualify your security token, then what next? I'll introduce to you the 3 smart contracts that you actually need to operate an ICO. Okay? So, all right, first let's review tokens versus ledgers. We are all really familiar with the concept of tokens because, well, I had a thought, Anyways, let's say this $5 bill, that's a token. Nobody can dispute the fact that I have at least $5 to my name until I spend it or get robbed. But this is the most common way we use to represent value, and the other way is ledgers, which is just a book that keeps track of all the accounts and how much balance they have and the transactions among these accounts. So a blockchain is a distributed open ledger, which means it's really just a ledger that's stored on every single node of a network of the blockchain. And one example is the Ethereum network, which now handles more than 50% of all the transactions of all the, it's basically handles more transactions than Bitcoin and every other digital currency combined. This is because Ethereum network is really focused on developers. It has a large developer community, and it has its own high-level programming language, and has a lot of tools and APIs that you can use that makes development relatively painless. It's still painful, but it's less so. Okay, so we all know the native token of Ethereum network, which is Ether. It's the second biggest coin by market cap. Okay. All right, so what's a smart contract? It's a piece of code that runs on every single node of the network, and it's in charge of pretty much describing the business logic of your application and make sure that everything happens automatically. So one example is like, if I send you some Ether to a sales contract, I automatically get back some tokens. There's no getting around that. And we also heard a ERC20 token. What does it even stand for? ERC20 stands for Ethereum Request for Comments issue number 20, which is, you can find it on that repository, that link there if you want to take a picture. So it basically describes a standard set of functions that a smart contract must integrate in order to be considered, in order to be a token. Some examples are the EOS token right now, Icon, and Tron. Now, if you want to find out if a token is actually ERC20 token, all you have to do is you go to coinmarketcap.com, and if you click on the blockchain explorer, and it takes you to etherscan.io, that means currently that token is a ERC20 token, and it probably doesn't have its native blockchain yet, but it might have in the future. Okay, so here's what a ERC20 smart contract looks like. We have these are the minimum amount of functions you have to implement for a token to be ERC20. Like the first one just returns the total supply of the coins. And then the second one right here, you're passing an address of the token owner, and then you get back the balance of tokens that this wallet has. Another important one is this transfer function, which is what's needed to actually move these balances around. So a ERC20 token must have these features, but you can also have more. custom features if you want to add to it. You can like even completely freeze the token from being transferred on exchanges if you want to just disable it, prevent it from being traded. And the second smart contract that you need is a token sale and distribution contract. You know, it's in charge of you send a token to this contract and it gives back the token, pretty simple. So one way to do a ICO sale is first you mint the entire supply of the token, you transfer it to the sales contract, and then you get to set the rate of Ether to token conversion. And then this contract also handles forwarding the fund to different collection wallets. Usually it's just one, but it could be multiple. And finally, it's supposed to enforce a whitelist of all the wallets that has passed the KYC process, which is know your customer, because you can't sell to non-accredited US investors. With the whitelist, only transactions coming from this whitelist will be accepted. And if any other transaction, any other wallet try to send Ether to the sales contract, it's not going to give back any Ether. The transaction will be denied, and the Ether will be refunded. Okay. And there's other ways to distribute your tokens, like if you want to reward your team for working on the project, you can have a vesting smart contract that distributes a token over time. And lastly, this is optional but really recommended, is you want to store your raised Ether into a multi-signature wallet smart contract because it's more secure that way. It requires multiple keys to unlock, kind of like nuclear launch codes. And if a subset of keys are lost, you're not out of luck. Like you still have access to your funds. Also, a single person can't just run away with the loot. Okay. Yeah, so that's it. That's in summary, really quick. Ethereum network is the default choice for ICOs. They're powered by smart contracts, and everything happens automatically, the business logic. ERC token smart contract is the ledger. And it's a little confusing. It's a ledger, even though it's called ERC20 token contract, that keeps track of all the balances of this token. And the sales and distribution contract is in charge of dispersing the token, and multi-signature wallet contract is in charge of storing your fund that you just spend so much effort raising. And that's it for me.
Okay, thank you. If anybody has a question, some question. Okay, Jared, please. Okay, yeah, sir.
Yeah.
You say a single person can't walk away with your money. How do people hack stuff then?
Just badly written code. Like that. There's the parity hack that happened in July. Is actually they had a really secure multi-signature wallet, except they overlooked the fact that they didn't make it secure enough so that the hackers can they reinitialize the wallet. They made a new wallet where the hackers are the owners. So that's how they start stealing all that money. And then when a group of white hat hackers found out, they because they can't reverse it, so what they did is they hacked the rest of the wallets themselves. They took all the money before the hackers can take it out, and then they later returned the funds to the original owners.
One question.
Yeah, Alex, what can you have to say about EOS and how they're calling it blockchain 3.0?
I don't know much about EOS, but I know right now it's still a ERC20 token, and from just like talking to friends in my network, they actually said that EOS token may be useless because the FAQ said that you don't need any EOS tokens to spin off a EOS blockchain. So EOS is only making the software that makes it possible for someone to start a blockchain, but the ERC20 tokens that you hold does not correspond to how much token you get when the blockchain starts off, because the company itself will not be managing the blockchain. Anyone can manage the blockchain. The company just handles the software part.
Okay. One last question. I'll ask Jerry one last question. Why do you think Ether has become so popular more than Bitcoin? Is it here to stay?
I think Ether is definitely here to stay. Yeah.
You have a question?
Oh. Yeah, so the question from Sydney is, why is Ethereum so popular, like more so than Bitcoin, and is it here to stay?
In your community, in the programming community, in the fintech community?
Yeah, so it is here to stay because in the programming community and developers, there's a lot more people who knows how to do Ethereum development than like any other blockchain, because the entire goal of the project of the Ethereum network, they are focused on developers. They want to make sure that it's something that developers will keep using because they have all the tools that enables us to build things.
Is it like something like a Linux was for the as Linux?
Yeah, I think,
Something like an open platform?
yeah, it's open source.
Okay.
Yeah.
So good. Thank you, Jerry. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.